Hey guys! Today I want to talk with you about a dark contemporary romance novel called Carnage by Sarah Bailey. Carnage was released in 2021 and it's a first book in the Four Horsemen series. As per usual, we will start this video with a short synopsis and then proceed into the non-spoiler review and wrap this video up with the spoilers. If you have not read the Carnage yet, but you feel like this is something you would enjoy, then do not worry, I will make sure to let you know when the spoilers begin. So, Carnage. Carnage is a story of a young and abused woman named Scarlet and four young men, aka Four Horsemen. Prescott, Drake, Francis, and West. Yes, horsemen, as in four horsemen of the apocalypse. War, famine, death, and pestilence. You know, Bible, Old Testament, Christianity, all of that. So as you can imagine, these men are super powerful and mega rich. Or at least we're told so. And since this is a dark romance novel, they're obviously very twisted. Scarlet gets hired as a personal assistant to one of the Four Horsemen in the Fortuity, a company that seemed to be partially the reason of the immeasurable wealth and influence the Horsemen have accumulated in the city. But here's the kicker. This is not just a chance encounter. Oh no. This is much more devious than that. Scarlet is sent to Fortuity by her family to get the dirt on the Horsemen and take them down. But what she does not know is that the Horsemen are completely aware of her plans. Even more, they know her. They know everything about her. As even though she can't remember them, they remember that before she was manipulated to work against them, she was one of them. I feel like I should start my non-spoiler review by pointing out that Carnage is a reverse harem type of romance novel. And just last year, for the first time ever, I gave a chance to a reverse harem dark romance and read The Den of Vipers by K.A. Knight. Now, if at some point earlier you have come across my review on The Den of Vipers, you know that I found that novel to be so incredibly bad that for quite some time afterwards I just could not force myself to give reverse harem a second chance. But then I ended up reading the premise of The Sweet Obsession by Callie Rose and got intrigued enough to give it a try. And while the Ruthless Games trilogy wasn't the best piece of literature I have ever read, I have to admit that it did have a pretty interesting and clever plot, a good character dynamic, and great chemistry, as well as emotional connection between all four main leads. To put it simply, I found Callie Rose books to be entertaining, which consequently encouraged me to branch out and look for something else just as entertaining within the same genre. And that's how I came across The Carnage. Unfortunately, I have to say right away, but this book did not leave the best taste in my mouth. Now, before I start going deeper into this book, there is a disclaimer I should make. I can't promise that I will not mix up the horsemen between one another, or that I will recall all and everything that happens in this book with a complete accuracy. I have read this book just about a month before making this review, and I honestly already struggle to remember it. It just feels like my brain blocked what I have read, and even though I did consume a couple of glasses of wine with the intention of unlocking said memories, the more I sat there thinking about Carnage, the more I realized that the novel doesn't really have any plot. It all really comes down to what we were given in the premise of the book. Scarlet comes to work for the Horsemen with an intention to take them down, and the Horsemen play with Scarlet and manipulate Scarlet. For what reason, I'm not quite sure. At first I thought that they're taking this as an opportunity to remind Scarlet who she really is and what close connection she has with them, but the more I read, the better I understood that this doesn't seem to be their concern at all. I mean, they say that they want her to remember them, but in reality it just feels like they're going out of their ways to punish her for having the amnesia in the first place. And yes, I'm well aware that this is just the first book in the 4th book series, but I still would have liked for it to have at least some plot worth following. That being said, the writing style of Carnage felt very fanfiction-like to me. Now, I'm not trying to say that every fanfic has a poor level of writing, but you do have to admit that quite a few of the fanfiction authors are amateurs that are still trying to find their voice, their writing style. And that's how Carnage felt to me. It felt like Sarah Bailey hadn't taken her time to really think things through before she published this book. It felt like an early draft rather than the end result. The novel is very repetitive. It's written from 5 characters' POVs, but the voices of the male characters are so similar at points that at least I needed to really concentrate or to go back and double check whose POV I'm actually reading from. Lastly, instead of a coherent story, this novel just felt like a bunch of individual scenes that were taped together without any actual purpose or sense of direction. Even for a dark romance, this book is really toying with that line of what at least I personally find sexy. I enjoy reading a dark romance once in a while because of the high level of escapism it provides. Yet I can't honestly say that the type of escapism Carnage offered me was something that I find appealing. Instead of the romance that felt dangerous yet sexy, it just relied so much on the abuse of our main female character from the very first chapters. Mental abuse, gaslighting, bullying, and even a highly premeditated and explicit rape scene. Instead of me wanting to be Scarlet, to be a woman that gets thrown into this dangerous life that she just cannot leave because of the insane attraction between her and the Horseman, I just felt sorry for Scarlet. And I can honestly say that I find it difficult to enjoy an erotica novel when all I want to do is sat Scarlet down, coddle her, and make sure that she understands that she has different options in her life. That being said, I feel like this is a great time for us to move to the spoiler review. If you haven't read this book yet, but you still think that you want to give it a try, then now it's a perfect time for you to click off this video. I get that the idea of dark romance novels is to push the boundaries, encourage the reader to explore their sexuality or their kinks, and maybe even make you feel uncomfortable once in a while. But I also truly believe that one should not sacrifice the plot in order to achieve these goals. Now, how should I explain this? Let's take American Queen from New Camelot book series by Sarah Simone as an example. Yes, American Queen is much tamer of a book than Carnage is, and yes, American Queen is menage and not reverse harem, but it does involve a lot of explicit sexual scenes. And yet when I was reading American Queen, it felt to me that the sex scenes were in this book to support and enhance the plot. And when I read Carnage, it felt like the plot was a filler used to connect the sex scenes. It felt like the author just wanted to write an explicit book, and therefore she put all of her attention towards the sex scenes and none of it towards making sure that the novel has something else to offer to its reader besides the explicit content. And if this type of content is the only thing you're looking for in a book, then there is a high chance that your opinion of Carnage is very different than my own. And of course, you're more than welcome to disagree with me, but after long consideration, I came to a conclusion that there are 4 things in this book that I found to be a deal breaker for me. These things being the lack of the coherent plot, the sexual and psychological abuse of our main female character, the incoherent dynamics between the characters of the novel, and the similarities between Carnage and the Den of Vipers. I feel like I already covered the non-existent plot more or less, and I would rather not force you to listen to me repeat myself. So let's just jump right in and explore the other 3 points a little further. And let's start with my smallest complaint, which is the similarities between this book and The Vipers. I'll say it right away. It might very much be so that by now the Den of Vipers have messed with my mind so much that I just can't read a book about 4 mafia men and not subconsciously think of the Vipers. But even on a superficial level, it's difficult to deny that the similarities are actually there. In Den of Vipers, you have 4 super powerful and dangerous men that rule the city they live in. And in Carnage, you have 4 super powerful and dangerous men that rule the city they live in. In both books, said men run influential, legitimate companies as a front for their illegal activities. In both books, there is one leader among the four that is a face of said companies, even though all four of the men are crucial in order to run their operations smoothly. In addition to that, all four men do not have any individual lives outside of their foursome and their business, as they all live together in their company's building. And if we look a little bit more closely to the characters of these books, they also seem like kindred spirits. I mean, we have one ice cold, brutal leader who is obsessed with control. We have one who is completely batshit crazy and probably should book an appointment with a therapist. Then we have one who plays with the line between being actually sweet and caring, but at the same time is just as dangerous as the others. And then we have the one who is just a little more closed off than the rest of them. I mean, I can't be the only one seeing similarities between Drake and Ryder, West and Diesel, Prescott and Kenzo, or Francis and Garrett. No, really. Please tell me I'm not the only one that's seeing this. Now, there is, however, quite a big difference between these two books when it comes to the dynamic of the male characters, which I think is quite accidental. Even though it seems like Sarah Bailey wanted us to believe that the four horsemen are inseparable, that they're a family, she just decided to tell us that, not show it. In Den of Vipers, and trust me, it pains me to give a compliment to that book, the relationship between the men was well established. They did feel close to one another. They did feel like brothers who would die, if need to be, to protect each other, who trust and confide in one another. But in Carnage, we're told that the Horseman has this amazing and indestructible bond, yet all these guys do are argue and undermine each other. Now, I'm not saying that anyone copied anyone's ideas. I'm just saying that either Sarah Bailey has been highly influenced by K.A. Knight, or that the reverse harem, dark romance, mafia genre is very, very unoriginal. As for the sexual abuse in this book, there are two specific scenes that I wanted to discuss a little bit further. First of them being the very first sex scene between Scarlett and West, and the second one being, well, the rape scene. As for the scene where Scarlett and West have sex for the first time, I'm honestly not sure how to even feel about that one. And it's not even the scene itself that weirded me out, but the way it came to be. It just felt so very weird that Scarlett, who honestly believes that she never, ever had sex with anyone, felt compelled to change that by having sex at her new workplace with one of her employers, a person whom she spoke with only once and who threatened her life during that one and only actual conversation they had. I understand that the author wanted to have Scarlett lose her virginity to West because that's exactly what she did when she was a teenager, but it just didn't make a lot of sense in this situation where they are now. At this point in the book, Scarlett has already had some sort of sexually charged encounters with the other three horsemen, and I just find it difficult to believe that she would choose West over the others. And this whole idea of West not actually telling his buddies that Scarlett is not actually a virgin, but instead leaving the office, having sex with Scarlett, and then coming back, pretending that he just fixed the problem. What was that all about? And then we have the rape scene. Besides it being an actual rape scene, it is also so premeditated and mechanical. The horsemen planned this whole thing in advance. They figure out how to lure Scarlett to their apartment, they drug her food, they kidnap her, undress her, blindfold her, put the earphones on her just so she would not have any sense of where she is, and then proceed on raping her, all four of them, together. There's no space at all left for the argument here. This is a rape, and if they're willing to do that to someone that they claim is one of them, then I don't particularly want to think about what they do to the woman they do not have such a strong emotional connection with. And lastly, the thing that probably annoyed me the most in Carnage is that I never knew what the author wanted the dynamic between the horsemen and Scarlett to be. On one hand, they kept on telling each other and telling themselves that Scarlett is just as much of a horseman as they are, that she is the reason why this empire exists in the first place, that they would do anything for her, that she is theirs and their life was hell when she was taken from them. However, at the same time, while they are thinking all that, they're also degrading her in every turn. There are great stories about domination and submission, but the Carnage isn't it. Carnage actually feels abusive, and I didn't like that at all. To me, it felt like the Horsemen actually hate Scarlet. There are demanding dark romance male leads out there that push their love interest buttons, yet when the push comes to shove, they shower their women with love that borderlines obsession. And then there are Horsemen who treat Scarlet like she's stupid and inconsequential. They are indulging themselves in her helplessness, her fear, and her misery. Now, I am aware that there are 3 more books in the 4 Horsemen series, and there is a chance that the books get better as the series progress, but I just can't force myself to keep on reading them. I practically never drop a book before finishing it, and that's why I also stick to reading Carnage to its end. But there's no piece of me that would want to keep on reading the rest of the series. But that's just my opinion. What about yours?